Hi, everybody. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey. I'm an author.
And I'm Meagan. I'm a bookstagrammer for Meagan's Book Club.
And Meagan and I have been internet friends for a long time. This is the first time we're really kind of like,
I know.
I mean, it's not real life face to face, but it's close.
Hey, it is right now for all of us.
Yeah. So she was so kind to agree to interview me so that we could share with all the book lovers out there. My new book, Feels Like Falling, right here. Woo. Oh, you have the ARC. I love the ARCs. I think they're so fun.
This cover, I can't even, the cover.
I love the cover.
It's one of the most beautiful beachy books I've ever seen.
I'm so glad that you like it. I love it. And usually there's a lot of like back and forth with the covers and like changes. And for this one, my editor kept emailing me and she'd be like, it's just not quite right. It's not quite right. And they never even sent me anything. And
really?
They sent me this cover and I was like, it's perfection.
It's perfect.
And I think, wait, let me see the
I want her skirt. And I want to be there. So
me too. Okay, wait. On yours, does she have a navy blue top or teal?
It's navy.
It's navy. Okay, but the hat band's a little more red on mine, I think.
Okay.
Yours a little more burgundy. That was the only two things. I was like, change the red.
I finished copy.
And this was originally like kind of that pretty, like that aqua that I love, but I thought just with her pants, it looks a little better.
She's so pretty.
It's very important. I mean, you know, people can say what they want, but when you're standing in the store, you pick up a book because you like the cover.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty much how in a bookstore you want a good cover.
Totally.
So what inspired Feels Like Falling? Because you came off of the Peachtree Bluff series from last year, you finished it out. So what kind of transition? Because this
is Peachtree Bluff. I'm not putting you on the spot. I just can't remember.
No. Yes, and I loved it.
Okay. I thought so. I thought so, but I couldn't remember. Like, okay, so what? So I want to ask you before I'll answer your question. Okay. But then I want to know, like, so what did you think about coming off of Peachtree Bluff and then coming into Feels Like Falling?
Well, I didn't know to be honest, I didn't know anything really about you until NetGalley sent me number 3 of the Peachtree Bluff. And so I scrambled on my library website and I got 1 and 2 because I, wanted to read them in order.
Okay.
And then I read the 3rd one a couple of months after it was published, but I just was in it. I just loved it. And I'm a military spouse. And so book 2 was kind of, heavy for me to read, but just the whole family and the relationship. So I could have done a number 4. I could have.
You could have. Okay.
Yeah. That's I loved this one, but I was like, if she had done a number 4, I would have just loved it.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I'm considering a number 4 and I'm getting a lot of feedback. But I know there were a lot of people that were like, I was really nervous about Feels Like Falling after Peachtree because I loved Peachtree. But I mean, the reviews and everything have been really good. Like I've gotten really good feedback from people. Good. But it's hard when you're like in that world and it's hard to do something different.
Well, and I wonder, did you write the first one thinking it was going to be a series?
Okay, well, so that's a really good question. And this is so weird because this is not normally like my process. But I had written Dear Carolina and Lies and Other Acts of Love. And then I wrote Feels Like Falling. Ooh, and I was out on submission for Feels Like Falling. And an editor who loved Feels Like Falling called me on the phone and was like, I love Feels Like Falling, but I really want you to write a series first. And she was like, I just think career-wise, this is like the right move for you. And I was like, I mean, I have no idea. So yeah, let's write a series, So I came up with an idea and I pitched it, honest to goodness, like on the fly, just pitched
wow.
It was really good.
I recommend that series to everyone.
Well, I love it. Thank you. But so yeah, I knew it was going to be a series going into it, and I was intimidated, but I didn't have time to be intimidated because it had to get done. So it was So it was a good thing. Like I didn't have time to be like, I can't do it. It's too much. It's too hard. How do I work that out? It just sort of happened. So, and so we'd originally plotted it to be, 3 books, and it was always going to be 3 books. And then at the end, people kept saying, oh, we need another Peachtree Bluff. And for a couple of months, I was like, Peachtree Bluff is over. But now I have an idea for a Peachtree Bluff book that I would really like to write. So, and I think that Peachtree Bluff, I could be wrong, but I think it had enough of a following that even if I waited a couple years, people would come back and read it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think I could make it kind of a standalone too, so that if you didn't want to read 1, 2, and 3.
Because people ask me, they're like, is it, necessary to read in order? And I mean, it's always nice to kind of, get the background, but I don't think that they're that much. You would have to read the one before to read the one out, like it's not like, oh, I have to read it to get every single detail. Like there's still an individual story in every book.
Okay. I'm glad to know that, you like lose sight of it when you're like so far in it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, but Feels Like Falling, I like the timing a lot because there are things about Feels Like Falling that kind of remind me of, see, this is so fun with you. I have never said any of these things on a talk.
We gotta keep doing it. It's so
fun. But there were some parts of Feels Like Falling, not parts of the story, but just there was something about it that felt like a little bit reminiscent of my first book, Dear Carolina. And so with this, I'm glad it didn't actually come out like as my 3rd book because there were some similarities in the characters a little bit. It was a very different story, but I thought, I don't know. And so it's funny now that I've gotten a lot of feedback from people who, how just like there are people who are like diehard Peachtree Bluff. There are some like diehard Dear Carolina people.
No, I haven't read. I need to get, once my library opens up next week. So I've been on our website. I'm like, I need all of these books now.
And it's so terrible. I said this to someone today, like I have no copy. I was like, somebody they'd be like, oh, I've never read it. And I was like, I would totally send you one, but I don't have a single copy. And someone said to me the other day, like, you don't own a first edition of your first book. Like that's horrible. But I'm always so like, if a reviewer wants it or something, I'm always like, oh, I'll send you mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got to get my hands on a Dear Carolina. But there were some things kind of reminiscent, just like in a, like women from very different worlds kind of coming together.
Yeah. And I really like that. Just the 2 different types of women and then finding common ground together. I love that.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad. Well, and and I think I obviously didn't know it at the time because I wrote it years ago, but I feel like it's kind of a good book for right now in a lot of ways. Like even before the quarantine and everything, I thought this is really a time where women from different worlds and different places are together. And I like that. And I think that sometimes, I'm sure you would probably agree with this, not to put words in your mouth, but I think when we read things, it makes us think about the world in a different way. Even if it's
absolutely
a beach read that you're picking up and you think, you know what, there is this person that I kind of feel like I would be really good friends with, but maybe I've just never really taken the time and I was kind of in that place in my life too when I was writing it. Like, I think there were some people, I think you grow up and your friends are sort of, you sort of choose the same types of friends over and over. Yeah. And then as you get older, like to have people with different interests than you and different lives than you and different backgrounds than you, it just makes your life really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That's really.
But you asked me an hour ago about how I got the idea for Feels Like Falling. Yes. I never told you because then I was asking you about Peachtree Bluff. But I actually got it in a really silly way. I'm not a plotter at all. Like I never know what's going to happen. It's always a surprise to me. I'm like coming fresh to the page every day. Like what's going to happen now?
I love that.
And so this was Christmas time, probably, well, it was 3. So I guess it was like 5 years or 4 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I was in a drugstore picking up some photo books that I had made on my phone to send home to everybody, while we were, or to take home to everybody for Christmas, just, because he was little and it was cute. And so I went in the store and the woman was like, well, you can't take these because there's some professional photos in here. And our new policy is that you have to have a signed release for the photos. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've picked up photos here a million times. And, the photographer is one of my best friends, and she just snapped these to be nice. And anyway, but then I'm a good girl and a rule follower. So I went and got the release and got to the store and got my books. And I was leaving the store and I thought, what if I hadn't done that? What if there were two women in the same situation and, this one woman really needed her scene. Yeah, and the other one was okay, fine. There was some reason that she wanted to give them to her, and then she lost her job because of it. And it kind of thrust them together. What would happen in that moment? And it was just that silly little thought that I went home and I started writing this book. And I actually didn't start with that scene though. The first line of this book that I wrote was in Diana's part of the book. And she says, my mama always told me that anyone named after royalty would grow up to be a princess. And that was the first line that came to me. And then I was like, well, her name's Diana. I mean, who else is a princess, And so that was just it was kind of a funny way to start it. But I think it turned into, I never know if it's going to turn into something that I like or that I think is going to be good. But I like the idea.
I loved that Gray was dating a younger man. So how did that idea happen?
Yeah.
I was like, ooh.
Well, right. So I really wanted to write a story about all the preconceived notions that we have for our lives and the boxes that we put ourselves in and what we can accomplish if we get out of those boxes. That was kind of, as the story was coming together, that was really the theme for me. And obviously, it's about friendship and, mother-daughter relationships and all of these things. But that for me was I was I want to put these characters in places where they're super uncomfortable and they figure it out, And so for Gray, she is, and she tells you the first line of the book, she is a planner. Her life is planned. And so when she marries that man that is, the perfect 5 years older or whatever it is that she has had in her head, she thinks her life is together. And then it all falls apart. And I don't know. I mean, I think she's so wounded from she's very hurt by being left for a younger woman, and she's having all these anxieties about I'm going to be 35, which is extremely young, but she thinks
in her mind
life is over. It's going to be together. I know. And there was one interview I was doing and they were like, well, I mean, 35 isn't old. I didn't understand that part. And I was like, well, no, she doesn't say it's old. She just thinks
for her at 35, life needs to look a certain way.
Right. It's her scary age. They used to say in Sex and the City,
I'm 34 this year. And I'm like, whoa, mid-40s happening.
We're the same age. That's so funny.
When's your birthday?
July 16th.
August 3rd. Summer babies.
Love it. Well, yeah. So, wow, we really are almost exactly the same age. That's hilarious. Yeah. So, but I mean, at 35, there's a certain.
Yep.
To be honest, I'm not really freaking out about 35. I have had those moments before where I'm like, okay, I'm not where I needed to be, or this needs to happen. And so I'm sure, I put a lot of that into this story, But I thought a lot about, okay, so, and honestly, this wasn't how this book was going to go. Andrew was not going to end up being a main character. He was not going to end up being a big part of Gray's story. But I loved him.
It was so good. I loved his character.
Yeah. And I think he just shows her, I mean, he's almost like a metaphor for everything else. It doesn't, it's one of the lines in the book. It doesn't have to look perfect to be perfect for you. And she really has to come to terms with the fact that, maybe he's not what she thought, but
Mhm.
will that be okay for her anyway? So
Yeah,
I
that's
love
very
that. He's a doll. And when you're like just down and out, like having like the hot young tennis pro, like
yeah.
take you out for a drink, like
That's what you would want after your husband left you.
right. After your husband leaves you for a younger woman, like
You're like, okay, I still got it. Okay.
Right. Exactly. And I think that is like Andrew's purpose at that moment. Like her feel like, okay, I have not totally fallen apart. Like this is good.
But I liked that he had such a strong backbone. Like he wasn't this like kind of like hot idiot. Like he told her like, I'm a really good catch. Like you would be lucky to be with me, kind of thing. And I'm like, good job, man. That's awesome.
I like that too. I mean, I wanted him to, and he had to prove himself to her in a lot of ways, but then like he had, and then that was on her. Yeah. He told her, and I liked that about him. And obviously she sees something else for herself, but anyway, I adore him. And
so has it been hard? I mean, we were talking about your books being sold out everywhere. How, because you love the in-person, book tours. And I was looking, because I'm only in Georgia. I'm in southern part of Georgia. And so I was like, ooh, could I come and drive to one of the book signings and everything? And it is a bummer not being able to see your people, your fans. And
it is. It's hard to not be able to see. And especially, you start to get, this is my 6th book. And so I've been doing this for long enough that there are places I go year after year after year. And like, there are people that I'm so excited. Like I know I'm going to see them when I'm in this city or whatever. And so that has been a little bit different, but I do have to say I'm incredibly grateful because when all this started happening, one, I didn't know if the book was going to come out. And two, just because of all the print, like the shipping and the printing and everything's happening in New York and New Jersey. And it was, so hard for everyone there, trying to figure out, is this going to be able to happen? And so once we figured out it was going to happen, people just rallied. People like you who were like, hey, we're going to make this happen. And it's been so great. Like so many bookstores and libraries and, influencers like you and people have just said, let's do this. Let's talk about the book. Let's have an event. And it's just been a lot of authors have really come together to kind of, help promote each other and to help lift each other up. Well, and especially because, I think so many of us do rely on those big in-person events where we can stand in front of people and talk and look them in the eye and sign their book. And there are, there is a certain percentage of our readership that's the experience that they want. We weren't really sure, like, are these people going to buy books if we're not standing in front of them? But, it's worked out really well. And I'm excited to be back on tour, but the kind of, this was weird, everything sort of works out. Normally I go on tour for 6 weeks, but my son's getting a little bit older. And so I can't just like pull him out of school. And so we split the tour up this time into 4 weeks in April and May, and then 2 weeks in August. And so hopefully, if things continue to improve and everything is according to plan, I will actually get to go on tour in August. It'll be fun. And it feels like falling. So it can be a fall book too, right?
It can work anytime.
And we want to go to the beach in the fall.
Of course. That's the time you go because it's not 150 degrees outside.
Right. Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so excited. I hope that everybody just gets this book and loves it. Just like, I don't know. And Peachtree Bluff number 4, 2021.
This is really good because I tell my publisher all the time, I'm like, y'all, you don't understand. Like I get a million emails like every day. Like we need more Peachtree Bluff. We want another Peachtree Bluff. So this is good. I'm just going to send them this video and be like,
yes, see.
Okay, before we go, will you tell us, like, how did you get started in this work? Because you've really, like, made a name for yourself in the bookstagramming community.
That's such a compliment. Like,
It's hard.
Well, what's funny is I had my Instagram account just for like my own recording. Like,
yeah,
I didn't really know about Goodreads. Like my friends would tell me, and they're like, "Don't you have an account?" And I'm like, "No, like it's fine. I just do it on my Instagram." I literally would just like take a picture of the book on my table, like not edited, not cute, not filtered or anything. And then I would just write a little review. And then last year, my best friend, who is just so supportive of, you know, women and their interests and, you know, things that they want to do. And she's like, and I only had maybe like 250 people following me, and they were half probably related to me and like my mom, you know. She's like, I think you need to like do something with this book account. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know Bookstagram was like
a thing.
And it's hilarious to me looking back, and it was totally a thing, and people take it very seriously. And so I just started to, you know, hashtags a little bit and, you know, jazzing up pictures and connecting with people and authors and stuff. And it's been such an interesting experience because I've really learned more just like my own interests and, you know, not being ashamed of my own likes and dislikes, and not, it's okay if you don't like every book. That's why there's so many books, you know.
That's so true.
And people, you know, I might not like a book and another person might give it 5 stars, and that's okay.
So true, as long as you like my book.
That's it.
I'm just kidding. But it is true.
Even I'm a favorite author, and I've loved all of her books, and I could not finish this last one that I read of hers. And somebody messaged me on Instagram and was like, how could you not give her the 5-star that you've always given her? And I'm like, it was the book. It's not her. It just, things don't connect with you, and that's okay, you know? So Bookstagram's a funny place, and you can't take yourself too seriously. And I'm a mom of 4 reading. Like I'm not like professional. It's just, I just read books and I enjoy
your videos and like what's always like happening around, and like how you'll be like, oh my gosh, like it's just so funny. I don't know how you even have time to read books, so I'm very impressed.
I don't know if reading's just kind of the hobby, you know. A lot of people have hobbies, and reading happens to be mine. And I'm so blessed to be able to get books to read from authors and publishers. That's the coolest perk of the whole thing, is, you know, being able to be a part of the experience, you know. So
you get just like inundated with books from people. Like you have a lot.
I've kind of slowed down, because it's, you know, at the beginning, that's everybody wants the books, but like gimme, and they're not always in your wheelhouse of interest. And so at the beginning, I was like, I'm getting books that I would have never picked up, nor do I have interest to pick up, and I feel bad that now I have them, you know.
Right.
So now I'm pretty selective of what kind of comes my way, because I'm a huge advocate also for the library, and I read probably more than half of my books are library books. And so, you know, I would pick a library book probably over any free copy any day, you know. So
awesome.
It's just, you know, the life, the Bookstagrammer life.
The Bookstagrammer life. It's glamorous, but someone has to do it.
That's right. But this has been so much fun.
So fun. Thank you so much for doing this. And I hope I get to meet you in real life.
I know.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.